A controversial new law has now come into effect in Hungary, despite condemnation from the EU. The law bans portrayals of homosexuality or gender change in school educational materials or TV shows for under 18s. Critics say it discriminates against LGBTQ people. The European Commission has urged Hungary to repeal the law, but Budapest says EU efforts to overturn it will be in vain, insisting the measure is there to protect children. Here's what European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen had to say about the new law.
This law puts homosexuality and gender reassignment on par with pornography. It uses the protection of children, to which we are all committed, as an excuse to severely discriminate against people because of their sexual orientation. This law is disgraceful.
And despite the criticism, the controversial law is coming into force today in Hungary. And DW correspondent Fanny Fashar is in the capital, Budapest. Fanny, you've been talking to many people in the LGBTQ community there in Hungary in recent days. What have they been telling you?
Rebecca, actually, you would consider Hungary is a free country compared to so many countries worldwide that we've been reporting from, that I've lived in and reported from. But when you zoom in on this particular issue right now, you will find that there are a lot of people who live in Hungary who feel increasingly alienated, who don't feel free, who don't feel that they can express their opinion or live their life freely, being a part of the non-heterosexual community. And that's exactly what I've experienced. I was trying to talk to people on camera about this issue, who are either transgender or homosexual, and what I've realized is even the people who said, yes, I'm willing to talk about this topic, in fact, they were very enthusiastic at first that they are being listened to and they can express their anger about this controversial law and that they can talk about their fear of discrimination and stigma that they think this law is going to further stipulate. But once the interviews were finished, they never made it to air because these people started to cry and say, actually, I don't want this to air. Right now in Hungary, this is not the time because I'm scared and I don't want to be judged. So this is a very shocking experience actually to me, who grew up here in Hungary, in my early childhood, to see that people who are who want to speak up about this very important issue, they themselves say, no, they don't want to, and they in fact rather want to leave Hungary than stay here and take to the streets.
Just how divided are Hungarians over this issue?
The Hungarian society is already at a rift over so many issues. When it comes to this issue, it's not as black and white to say that, for example, people who support the government will support the law and people who support the opposition parties are against the law. In fact, you find people, regardless of party affiliation on every side, who say that, in a way, they are critical. They say that this law is actually a good thing because they themselves don't really understand what it means to be transgender. So if the parents of children do not understand what that means, why should their children learn about it? Well, people who criticize the law, in fact, right now a press conference is underway by Amnesty International Hungary behind me. They set up a huge heart, a 10-meter heart here in front of the parliament. They say the law is exactly making it impossible to educate people that, yes, life is quite different and quite diverse because this law is actually banning the very fact of education and educating children before they are 18, that, yes, there's a different life or various forms of life and not just a heterosexual form of it.
Now, Fanny, we just heard from the EU Commission President there calling the law disgraceful, threatening legal action. Does that not impress anything upon the Hungarian government?
No, and it would be the first time or the first issue where the European Union is criticizing Hungary, be it, for example, press freedom or their concern over the lack of independence of the judiciary. And every time when there was concern, every time, in fact, Brussels said we're going to trigger Article 7 or many other tools that they have in place. Basically, what the Hungarian government is saying, that this is a sovereign country and it's up to the Hungarian government to decide how and in which way children should be educated when it comes to sexuality. They say it's in the exclusive and sole domain of parents. But what's really interesting and contradictory, in fact, it's not the domain of parents because it is the domain of the law. And what the law says, which came into effect today, that when you are younger than 18 years old, you're not supposed to learn about anything but heterosexuality. You're not supposed to know, basically, that homosexuality exists or transgender exists in Hungary. And that is quite a scary development to people who are here right now at the parliament and trying to say to people, don't be silent, take to the streets and make sure that even though this law is in effect, it's not going to stay in effect in Hungary.
All right, Fanny, thank you. DW correspondent Fanny Fischer in Budapest.